Okay, so today's tarot card is called the Force, but you should probably think of Star Wars and that type of force and not the more masculine. And as, just as an example of the contrast, we have Samson on the lion on the one side here. And, here in taming the unconscious psyche, it looks very much like a battle, total repression, like what you might get in a fundamental religion. And you notice the lion is tearing at him. And it's a very, forceful action on what he's trying to do to control it. Whereas if you look at the tarot card, she's not even looking at the lion. She looks like she's almost in trance. And the lion, lies rather playfully against her. So it's a very different type of force than, and we're going to, we'll be dealing with the anima. And I wanted to start with a quote from Hellman's book on anima. So this is it. The sufferings that befell her took the form of various emotions: sadness, fear, bewilderment, confusion, longing. Now she laughed and now she wept. The emotional state of Sophia sunk in unconsciousness. Her formlessness and the possibility of her getting lost in the darkness characterize very clearly the anima of a man who identifies himself absolutely with his reason and his spirituality. Bad news for us puers. So we can accept the anima easily enough when she appears in novels or as a film star, but the role that she may play in our own lives is not easily understood. And she sums up everything that man can never get the better of and never finishes coping with. The high tension concerning feeling, femininity, eros, soul, fantasy, these are all areas of projection involved with the anima and are all areas requiring the expertise of the Force tarot archetype. In our hero's journey so far, it's led him to establish his ego identity in the lover. He has set forth in the chariot to take his place in the world. And he has faced the moral problems posed by justice. And he has turned to the hermit in search of spiritual insight. The Wheel of Fortune marked the end of his cycle and has brought in the next phase of awareness. From this point on, his interest will move increasingly from the outer world to the inner one. Energies that were expended in the outer world will concern themselves with inner growth. We now move from problems involving the masculine logos side of life to the instinctual nature, which bring us to eros and the feminine principle. And because this is the anima and we're dealing with eros, I thought for the description that I'm actually going to give of the tarot card, I wrote a poem, for better or worse. And so here it is. She is not a goddess. She is a human being. Her hat suggests the magician, but her power lies in her hands, not some mysterious wand. Her posture is relaxed. She moves with the lion, fearlessly grasping the lion's jaws. Ego power will be sacrificed for another type of power. The masculine drive is sacrificed for a more feminine approach. She is not under the ego's conscious control. She roams freely in visions and dreams. This is the way to the dark forest of your inner being. So that's the poem. The lady magician faces the lion and gives him the attention that he needs. The ego consciousness is unable to deal directly with the forces of the unconscious. A relation between these two aspects of the psyche can only be accomplished through the mediation of the animal. The mediating influence of the feminine between the human consciousness and the primitive psyche is related in such fairy tales as Beauty and the Beast, The Frog Prince, Cupid and the Psyche. And these stories, through a woman's loving acceptance of its bestial nature, the animal is not only tamed, but transformed as well. In The Frog Prince, for example, it is because the little princess overcame her initial repugnance of the slimy frog and accepted him as her constant companion that the repulsive creature was in the end freed from a wicked enchantment to stand forth in his true nature as a royal prince. In other stories, it is through a woman's compassion for its bestial nature that a hideous monster is eventually integrated. We see this transformation in the tarot as well. The previous card, the Wheel of Fortune, the instinctual forces are depicted as two pathetic, I wonder if I can get to that. Yeah. So in this card, the little animals, they ape the humans in their expression and dress, and thereby deny their nature. Whereas in the force card, the lion stands proud in the animal skin, freely exposing his true essence. The lady magician's magic is one of human relationship, the daring of personal involvement, of direct physical contact. With her bare hands, she explores the beast's dimensions and needs. She communicates to him in her own atmosphere her faith and expectations. She knows she must feed the beast the appropriate food, otherwise the beast will turn on her. Psychologically, this would mean that the hero's side, his capacity for relatedness, would be obliterated, and he would then become like Samson's lion, possessed with an archetypal lust for power, pride, and primitive rage. The lion cannot be put behind us. We shall have to pay attention to him, put our hands on his gaping muzzle, and becoming intimately acquainted with this creature. But experiencing the beast's power does not mean that we must act out our aggressions. Rather, we must hold on to our raging affects and come to grips with them. The more we become conscious of them, the less we will be compelled to affect. We must approach the lion gently and indirectly from the hidden unconscious side. We must duplicate the lady magician's give and take attitude in communion, the soothing presence. This contact with our affect will take us out of our minds and into our guts. We will move beyond ego limitation. The lion's golden substance will flow up our arms and become a part of us. So that's today's.
That's a great introduction. I'm thinking of it's either Ishtar or Astarte or something that she loves the company of wolves and bright-eyed lions. You know, this aspect of this whole book is really, and what's so compelling about it to me is the that we are separated from the instinctive. You know, I think it represents in a dream that I had once where I'm in a boat and my ego I'm trying to steer both the boat of the body and my ego, but my is in another boat way ahead of me, and it goes far, far ahead, and it turns around the curve. And so now I'm trying to steer the boat of the body and steer the boat of the that's out of sight. And the only thing that I can see is two ducks that are both black and white, and they sort of represent this polarity. So we're, sort of these strange creatures. I don't know whether you feel it in yourself, but when I feel my awareness, it does not, I do feel like the turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. I mean, I think this woman is having the same problem in her life, is trying to reconnect instinct. Well, the way that Adler puts it is so beautiful, is that that ego is supposed to recognize its role as the instrument of a growing awareness of a psychic and a somatic totality. I mean, that's the whole idea, and I think that was very beautifully instructed. By the way, I sent out a new version of the Adler book because it missed a lot of the paintings that we're going to go through. Maybe I'll just show you some of these just to kind of whet our appetite. I mean, this one should come up either next week or the one after. She has a dream about a man who wears tree bark. This was after the man with the that she flashes the light on, and so now she's sort of identified him as the tree. This is the other animus, but she's got several kinds of trees. She has the uncomfortable tree, and see this uncomfortable tree. There's forces pulling down, and there's forces, vultures, pulling up both ways, and then she later has another version of the tree, and this one is the comfortable tree. Now here the mother, or the feminine, is sitting at the roots, and there is a bird in the tree, but it's it's not pulling on anything. It's just resting, and it then she comes up with this image too, which is somewhat similar, is a ring that's being pulled by chains on every side, and she's the center ring. Now, is this who was it that had the was that you, Kat, that had the dream that you were in the middle of a pole that was being pulled by chains or something like that? But
there was a post in a barn that
yes,
had chains at four corners of the room attached to this post.
Yeah, that were pulling on it, and then she has this dream. Now remember the diamonds, the 5 diamonds set in a row, and you can almost see the swastika, the turning wheel in the middle. This is the jewel between the feminine and the masculine. So there's this growing awareness of the psychic and somatic totality. I just quickly show you some of her other paintings because we'll go through each one. This is the 3 intersecting circles and the cave landscape. Now these are all her drawings. Of course, no one knew about Jung's Red Book at that point, so these are just then there is a Roman galley, and it's being rained upon but it's not raining anywhere else. And there's a cover over it. And then there's the young man riding away on a black horse from what looks like a tent, you know, some kind of a thing. And now this is in that I will in the link that I just put there. There will be this version of the book. And here now, a diver follows diving birds to the bottom of the sea. And, you know, they're either cormorants or, you know, the diving birds, the cormorants. And then there is, and hi, Charles, and Kendrine, and Mohammed, and I think, who else? Camilla came in, I think, I hope and Dahlia is here too. Yeah, hi, Kendrine. And then there is this dream here. This is a really interesting one. The snake way and the lightning way. The snake way and the lightning way. I mean, these are all, now this whole thing is going to be trying to connect this ego. It really is if you saw that picture Gary first show of the man that was struggling with the lion, this is pretty much what she's doing and what many of us are doing. Then there's the burial rite and the night sky mandala. Now this is one she actually saw in the sky, and I think Charles has seen dreams like that where the hi Charles, just Charles came in. There's a figure in flames and the heavenly city, and then the heap of ashes with a question mark. Now all of these things, there are these. We're going to go over a little bit of a clue to that today, and then here is the golden sphere above the mountains and the winged youth, and look at the sun there. The sun is very important, and also look at the mountains. Remember her problem with the mountains that she had, that they were, and then she's this one is also very important. Her fight with an angel who holds the lightning bolt, you know, an angel, a winged angel with a lightning bolt, and she's struggling with him. Okay. Well, anyway, that's sort of a kind of a little preview of what we're going through, and that's what I'm saying. This book is, and now all of these images came up in an ordinary person who is separated from instinct, you know, who is separated from her lion. You know, she loves the company of wolves and bright-eyed lions. You know, I mean, that's the aspect of the growing awareness, being in service, or the ego as the growing awareness in service to a psychic and a somatic, the inner totality, and our life as a biological being. I think that is so important, that all of these things have to do, and you'll find out later in this today that Jung's, and I was telling Diane and Gary, Jung says that the spirit is a great trickster. You know, it gives us these wonderful visions, and they are very cleverly crafted to amaze us. And yet, if they're not connected with the feeling function and with sensation, they don't possess a genuine insight. You know, I mean, this aspect that I think both in men and women, you know, the spirit or the animus or the logos is to be in service to a somatic totality. And it's not the other way around. So anyway, we'll just start on these dreams. These are the first dreams of her analysis, and Adler says they almost inevitably show a great ambivalence about the task ahead, which is very interesting. Now this is going to tell us a little bit about our egos. We can't help ourselves. This is the way we work. We always are working at cross purposes to this. So anyway, here's her first dream, and I want Gary to listen closely because it reminds me of his dream that we looked over yesterday. Okay, she's about to begin a journey abroad, she thinks. She drives up to a little train station in an open car full of parcels and packages. And there's a line that she has to cross, the car has to cross in order to catch the train. You're in, you now can disembark and get on the train. But just as she's about to do so, she lost time talking to a friend. And then she sees the train is coming in. Now she can't cross. And the station master on the other side holds up his hand, won't let her pass. And the friends who are present say, well, he might just as well have let you pass. Okay. So anyway, that's the dream. That was her. She had 3 dreams that night, and they're going to all have a different messages about her ambivalence. This is the first one. The image of the journey abroad is a frequent motif. You're going somewhere, and it's particularly at the beginning of the analysis. It indicates a journey into an area that is foreign and remote and unknown territory of the unconscious. The unconscious is a area unfamiliar to ego. Now, the parcels, the packages, represent all the things she means to take along, but they're really the impedimenta of ordinary life. Impedimenta is just if you're going to go to the moon, you better streamline, simplify a little bit. You can't take everything to the moon with you. So these may turn out later to be burdens that must be shed. Burdens that must be shed. And so now the journey must be undertaken without any comforts of her conscious existence. All the comforts of ego consciousness need to be left behind. But when she arrives at the station, she finds she can't cross. And now this is apparently because the station master exerts his powers in an authoritarian way, in the opinion of her friends. Now this it really reveals the ingenuity here. The real reason she can't cross the line is she lost time talking to a friend. And he brings up that the inner logical connection of even the unrelated events in dreams always follow this pattern. It's either after that this happened, or because of that this happened. And it can also be that something happened after this. They don't seem like they're related, but the one that follows would not have happened if this hadn't happened. This unrelated aspect of the dream hadn't happened first. So the 2 ways of reading, he says, is either after having lost some time, I cannot cross, or I cannot cross because I have lost time. But her conversation is the real reason that made her late, prevented her from crossing the line. But she interprets the difficulty to the unfriendly station master. They criticize his action. So now this particular friend who she was chatting with is unknown, but seems to represent a retarding factor in her life. And now their conversation is a lack of adjustment to the needs of the moment, okay, which were to catch the train. But she has a too chatting attitude, so she's not adjusted to the needs of the moment. And it's an attitude that far too easily deflected her from this purpose of setting out on the journey of analysis. And so this is symbolizing her ambivalence, the ego's unconscious resistance to to finding out why is it that she can't link her ego. Her ego is so unrelated to her instinctive feminine life, and it is he says it now, this unconscious resistance, and it's going to come up in another dream about word association tests, these unconscious resistance. He calls it the psychopathology of everyday life. I want to mail a letter, but I forgot to take it along. I want to go on a journey, but I happen to be late. So there is this. These aren't accidents. That we've got two forces working at us, both constructive and destructive, all the time. And her journey is the analysis. Now, I just want to stress, this is so human. This is what being human is all about, is that we all suffer from this psychopathology of everyday life, everything we do, but this is being human. How do you deal with this problem? So anyway, her perspective journey is the analysis, and it's just, the dream just highlights an ambivalent attitude, ambivalent. There's two there's two valences, and she both of them are are operating, ambivalent. Okay. Now anyway, this ambiguity appears more openly in the figure of the station master. He should be helping the traffic along, assisting her in catching the train, but by his exaggerated punctiliousness, and by the way, he's the analyst, the station master, the analyst. By his exaggerated punctiliousness, he stops her from making the connection. So it's very clear that she and her friends project her own resistance, her chatting attitude, on the person of the station master and the analyst. But his action is necessitated by her delaying her purpose in a superfluous way. So the station master is the analyst, and if she wants to undertake the journey into the unconscious, the station master is the one who's going to be in charge of the train. Okay. But why can't he be more helpful? Why isn't he more sympathetic? So is he, after all, just as understanding as the whole world around me, and does he belong to that thing that's not relatable to the wilderness? Is he part of that? So the station master in his doubtful actions expresses her own inner ambivalence. Her ambivalence is this: hope versus fear. Okay. Desire versus reluctance. And now those forces are acting in her all the time. Desire and reluctance, hope and fear, they act in all of us. And now she puts this projection onto the station master, and she says, I would like to undertake the journey, but he is not cooperative, and he's the station master, this forbidding authority figure. And so he represents the custom fit official who has to be appeased, but he also represents her inner animus and expresses both a simultaneously positive and negative logos or spiritual drive, masculine energy, both positive and negative. The positive and constructive is in the sense of being in charge and in control of the inner movement. That's what the station master should be doing. But he's negative and destructive in the sense that he uses this power to incapacitate her. Now, this is the almost the negative animus who tells us, don't start, you're going to fail, you're not good enough, other people are better than you. I mean, that's all you keep hearing, these voices all the time. So anyway, these constructive, destructive psychic tendencies formulated even more clearly in another dream that night. And these three dreams, the same night, as a rule, will circle around the same problem, formulating it and discussing it in different angles. And the second dream is she's talking to an analyst, and he says something about the swastika. Now, this is 1941, okay? And it ends with, this is the analyst speaking, the swastika, but the swastika as you see it on ancient buildings, not, and then he's interrupted by her. She says, yes, the other form is the most unfavorable thing. Even apart from its political implications, I cannot look at it without discomfort. So now the swastika is a sun wheel, basically. I mean, it is supposed to, the word comes from su asti, and it means, su means well, and asti means being, and here's a picture of, this is on a temple in Japan. Now, this is a favorable sun wheel because it's turning in the sunwise direction, okay? This is a Buddhist temple in Japan. Now here, it's on, this is a 2nd century Roman mosaic. There's the sun wheel, okay? And then there is let me see if this one here is from, this is from Scandinavia. It's just a rock painting. They put kind of a red line around it, but this was a outline of it. Now this one is turning in the counterclockwise direction. Okay, so it's turning in the opposite direction of the other two. Now this is the one that she says that when he was going to say, yes, the swastika as you see it on ancient buildings, but she doesn't want him to mention that even the leftward turning wheel is that the leftward turning wheel has a purpose, but that she wanted to make it political. So she didn't want to go left, is basically what she's saying. I think it's very interesting that we look at living in 1941. France had fallen. Britain stood all alone, and yet the psyche here is not being political at all. Doesn't care. Not concerned. It's dealing with the instinctive aspects. So anyway, it was reversed here. The swastika is turning against the direction of the sun, and it denotes a movement directly opposed to the right way, the order of the cosmos. So it's directly opposed to the right way, and this means typically that the usual way is the collective way and the right way. The unusual way is the individual way and the wrong way. You know, the leftward movement, the swastika, denotes a movement in the direction of the unconscious. It's a circumambulation to the left, and it's a regression. Now, this was, he says, beautifully illustrated in the fairy tale called Child Roland. Now, this was where it begins with the sister kicks a ball over the church. That's the collective, accepted collective attitude. And she kicks a ball over it. And now to find the ball, she goes around the church in the counterclockwise direction 3 times. And then she disappears. Okay. And then she's got 3 brothers. The first brother goes in the direction 3 to try to find her. He disappears. And then the third one, or the second one, brother goes around. He disappears. Now the third one, Child Roland, goes to the green man, Merlin, and asks him what happened. And they said they're all in Elfland. And so he has to go to Elfland and get them. Now this direction in the opposite direction is called Widdershins. You know, that's the name of it's actually the name of the fairy tales in some books, but it's going in against. Widdershins means to go in the opposite direction. I remember one time I was in Trondheim at the Nidarosa Cathedral, and I had gotten lost. My cousins couldn't find me anywhere, and I finally found me, and they asked me where I was, and I just kind of teasing them, you know. I says, ja, gick runt Nidarosa 3 gånger to a slappa av den märklig magien. You know, I went around it 3 times to unwind its strange magic. It's märklig magien. And my cousin says, in English, she says, I think you're the one that's märklig. But anyway, it was just something I kind of experienced one time. I don't know why I said it, because I didn't really do it, you know. But anyway, so this movement is exactly what she needs. This leftward movement. It's the one that's the unusual, the individual, the wrong. What she values right now is overvalues. It needs to be replaced by what is currently undervalued, the unusual and the wrong. And so now, but this unusual and the wrong and the leftward path is deeply suspect. It's sinister. That actually means left turning. And it is exactly this movement which will lead to individuation. Okay, so she's looking for the swastika turning to the left as being connected with the movement towards the unconscious, leading her away from her collective and rational adaptation, downwards to the non-rational and the dark side of her psyche, towards the bright-eyed, the wolves and the bright-eyed lions, you know. And this dark side is also the feminine aspect of the psyche. The yin equals the dark, and the dark is the feminine. And it threatens the lunar aspect, threatens to undermine the unconscious adaptation of her as her primary function being the intellectual and and that he's going to say later that there's no problem being a woman who has a orientation towards thinking function. and most modern women are, he says that he meets, are very coolly rational. You know, the ones he was out. He says there's nothing wrong with that. But as Marie-Louise von Franz, who was a introverted thinking type, one time she was at the Young Institute in Chicago, and someone asked her, this was in, I think, the 70s, and they asked her what she thought of feminism. Feminism, I can't pronounce it. But she says, well, if you know, to be a feminist is not to be a imitation of a man, she said. To be a feminist is one who is sync with the instinctual and with the great mother. And her relationship with the masculine world is one where it does not, like we say, is Aphrodite ever possessed by the negative animus? You know, she's not, you know, so you become Aphrodite or Venus or something like that, and then you allow the logos to operate. But this was what Marion Woodman meant about to be consciously feminine, is to be one who's and by the way, there's a beautiful book by Esther Harding, you know, about it came out of the Vision Seminar about being consciously feminine, and it's just full of this stuff of the lunar aspects of being. Now, this is again the polarity. I mean, the idea is you never take this literally. I mean, because all of these things we're talking about are just as essential for someone who was accidentally born male as it is for someone who's accidentally born female. And we should never take it literally. These are psychic. We're talking about psychic totality, and we both have. We're the Tai Chi. You know, we are a white circle with the black dot, whose tail penetrates the blackness, and we're a black circle with the white dot, whose black tail penetrates the whiteness. But we are the whole thing. You know, we're not just one side. You know, so that's this aspect. Don't take it literally, because it's just the fact that we need to be conscious of all of it. So anyway, I might want to quickly, I'm getting a little out of time here, just to sort of review some of the dreams that we're going to come up with later. The other dream she had that night, she's reading a book in German about owls, and with fantastic names, and one is flying over a misty glacier. And this, of course, refers to her glacier vision, where the helpless rocks roll grinding in the glacial stream. And the owls are connected with Athena. They're connected with the Great Mother. They're connected with the night. They're connected with the moon. And so night, moon, Great Mother, here we are right in the center of her own personal problem, her fear of the unconscious, and her corresponding undervaluation of the feminine principle. And again, that was what Marion Woodman's book, My Father's House, concerns. And so she undervalues the feminine principle. It's pretty easy to do in a world of bank accounts and IQs. What's an IQ? You know, it's a measure of the power of your thinking function. Do you have a powerful thinking function? Oh, you don't. I'm sorry. You can't. You won't fit in here into this world. You know, your thinking function doesn't work very well. Well, how about your feeling function, or your sensate function, or your intuitive function? You know, are those? We're going to ignore 3/4 of the people in the world. Now, the owls also have very powerful eyes, and remember that in her dream, she is really just a helpless, staring eye, and these eyes will very well orient her in this world. They're very, very at home on the glacier, and their eyes are very familiar with the night and with the unconscious. And so the dreams that she had that night were the negative animus holding up traffic, the ambiguity of the leftward turning sun wheel, and then the positive intuition of insight, the owls. And by the way, the book was in German. Oh, hi, Tim. Nice to see you here. I'm just about ready to wrap up here. The positive intuition of her insight. Now, these three dreams, just interesting, that they must be understood as her single initial reaction to the impact of her first session. The negative animus who holds up traffic when it really is her unconscious resistance that causes her to miss the train. The ambiguity of the leftward turning sun wheel, the positive intuition of the owls flying over the glacier at night. Okay, so instead of feeling stuck after this first dream, she feels movement in the unconscious, and this was of the greatest importance. Her reaction to it, she felt movement. Something was happening, and that with this came the hope of making herself understood and of understanding. Now, I just want to tell the three dreams that we'll discuss next time are going to be a villainous man who wants her to come with him, but she doesn't. She tricks him again, like she tricked, well, she's going to trick two men in this dream, in this sessions, in this night's dreams. And so he runs away, and then someone takes a woman out of a house who is distorted in pain. So because she rejected this neglected animus figure who was trying to bring her a summons or a message from the unconscious, her feminine function is still is injured in the process. And then the other dreams were, there is one about she's watching a battle, air battle over London, and one plane is shot down, and she says, "It's German." And her friends say, "No, it's British." And that shows, and then the dream ends. And then she says that she interpreted it, and that shows you've backed the wrong side. Again, this terrible time they were living in, and yet the dreams seem to be talking about her. And then the final dream is where she has the dream of that there is man, the psychological man, the analyst, is sitting there, and he's waiting for a revelation. And the revelation will come when a light shines in his eyes. And she's sitting there with the diamond brooch with 5 diamonds all set in a row. She doesn't have this piece of jewelry in her real life, and the sun is shining, so she makes the light shine in his face. He feels he had the vision. Okay, so now she's trying to trick the analyst. Okay, and then the other, she had 2 other dreams. So the second, all these dreams happen the same night. There are 4 of them. The second one is now she's got 2 women analysts, and she's taking a word association test. She's not doing very well on it. And so here's the 2 feminine, the feeling function. And Jung said this too. When you see 2 in a dream, what it means is that whatever unconscious content you're looking at has become more conscious. And as it becomes more conscious, it splits into 2. One half is the aspect that you understand, and the other half is this half that you still don't understand. but they are almost identical. Okay. And so these are the two women who wear practical shoes, you know, and have sound common sense and are very related to the feeling function. And they're saying, unlike the man who you so easily tricked, Gerhard Adler is who she's talking about. The Gerhard Adler, who you so easily tricked, the feminine, the feeling function, you're not going to trick us. We know what's wrong with you. And then the final dream is the most beautiful one, is that she meets a man who is clad from his neck to his wrists in tree bark. You know, he's completely clad in tree bark. And let me see, I'm trying to remember if he said anything. I think he did say something, but anyway, what was interesting about it was that he represents the tree. He's called the tree man, you know, and he is, and yet he's a man. Okay, so he's both represents the feminine tree, this source of growth and renewal, and yet he is also he's also a man. Now this came up very similarly in a dream I had one time, which was the exact opposite, and that was this one here. Let me just show you real quick if I can find it here. And this one has haunted me for many years. It's the woodpecker woman. Okay, now this woman is a woodpecker. She's the master woodpecker. You know, now the woodpecker is a bird, and which is normally a masculine figure, or one, you know, that's far away from the earth, but it's represented by a woman here, an wise old woman, and the woodpecker never leaves the tree, never leaves the rooted thing. So, you know, sort of my redeeming figure here is the woman who's the woodpecker, and who never leaves the tree, and yet so it's a different kind of puer. You know, my problem was I was a puer eternus, yet she's a puer, but she's one, again, the level-headed man, or the one with common practical shoes. She doesn't ever leave the earth, and yet she has this ability to go in both places. Okay. Oh, here's what the man in the tree bark says. Now, this is very interesting. Now, he says this, and I'll just end with this, and we'll finish it next time. But you know, because I'm really interested to hear what Tim's up to and what Charles is up to. I mean, we can discuss these, but we'd also like to just hear what everybody's doing. He tells her something. He says, "I can't," and then she can't hear what he says. "But I can," and then she still doesn't hear what he says. Okay, so now when she woke up, she thinks that he says, "I can't explain it to you, but I can let you look, and you can see for yourself." Now the idea here is there are no answers. There are no revelations. We need to ask the right questions. We can see for ourselves, and we need to experience it. But the answer has to come from our proper role as ego, which is to be the growing awareness of a psychic and a somatic totality of our existence as biological beings, you know. Anyway, I'm going to kind of end here, but Gary, I mean, we can go around, but you can talk about this session, or you can just kind of tell us what you're up to. I particularly want to hear what Tim's up to and what Tim Dream, because Tim is so busy. I'd like to hear what Charles is doing, and Camilla, you haven't talked to you for a while. So go ahead, Gary, if you want.
Great. Well, I'm just going to go in the order people were in. Dan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to ask Craig, what do you mean by psychic and somatic?
Okay, well, the psychic...
Are they opposites?
Not necessarily. I think they're actually have an identity. But I think the reason I also add the somatic, because I think it's lost. He didn't actually mention somatic, but I mention it because what do you think, Angelique? What do you think the difference between psychic and somatic is? Or if there is one? I just wanted to give it a little bit of a billing, you know.
Very intuitively, I like it every time when you add somatic, because I haven't read till the end of the pages you suggested, but I like when you add it, because then the sensation comes into the fore, and the embodied comes into the fore, because sometimes the psychic can be so spiritual it's up in the air. Yes. So I like it when you bring, very intuitively is what I'm saying, but I like it because you ground it then into the matter of the thing, which is feminine, the matter or mother in Latin. So maybe I guess you're also feeling something, again, you, Craig, intuitively about the woman and her connection to her embodiment. I wonder if you're feeling something through the dreams that maybe Adler is not mentioning, about her experience of embodiment in relation to the struggles. Because I felt that in the dream, I'll be very quick, sorry. I felt that in the dream that who prevents her from going into the train is a very somatic, embodied prevention. So there is something very physical going on there. So I wasn't sure about whether he was the analyst. I wouldn't be so sure myself.
Later
I let you talk, you know, after your question, you know.
Yeah, well, later in the book, she dances with him, the station master. She and him dance together. But I would say the idea of the somatic is bringing up the instinctive. I think the problem is when we say psychic, we lose the instinctive aspect. And Adler does say here, he quotes Jung as saying that the spirit is a great trickster. You know, the spiritual, this air being is a great trickster because it is so convincing. And yet it possesses nothing of the feminine, the instinctive, the bodily, the sensate function, or the feeling function. And so he says that unless it needs to be in service to all of those who need to be a whole, a totality, before it can add its value. And its value is meaning. But meaning needs substance. Substance needs meaning. You know, and if you have meaning without substance, it's not worth anything. You know, and if you have substance without meaning, it requires that to be sound and whole, and actually to grow. I think the idea is without that polarity of the airiness of the of the spiritual, if you don't have a polarity, no energy flows. So that thing that is the opposite polarity, the black part of the Tai Chi needs the white part of the Tai Chi to be its polarity. When you have polarity, then the tails can penetrate each other. There's movement. It isn't a static situation. I think now, Diane, what do you have? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that probably my question is revelatory of my own need for development in some area, but I'm confused about it because instinct, I think, we can become conscious of it, but mostly it's not conscious. And I'm wondering, I'm always confused between instinct and intuition. It seems like in the Tai Chi the Qigong that we did this morning, he says that the intuition is in the mind and the compassion is in the heart, and instinct is in the gut. I know instinct is in the gut, but I'm unclear about where intuition is. I think I'm probably an intuitive type, and sensate is my least developed type. But so that's why I'm saying it probably reveals something about me. But I still would like anybody's comment about intuition versus instinct.
Yeah, let me just say something real quickly. It's Jung called it the infrared part of the light spectrum, and the archetypes were instinctive, and yet they were the ultraviolet, the one that differentiates into a million colors. Now the idea in my own life, just say my own active imagination, is that the instincts are conscious. Talk to them. Talk to any one of them, and they're very mute, and yet they don't have vocabulary. But that doesn't mean they don't talk. Art talks, but it doesn't really have a vocabulary. It doesn't have a grammar. And where did our vocabulary and grammar come from? Did we invent it? Or did it come up from some instinctive aspect, within us? That this growing awareness of the I think of Sophia wanted it to be. She wanted this this inexhaustible joy of life invincible to pour into time and space, because she wanted to then go occupy it once it became the instrument of the growing awareness of a psychic somatic totality where she lives. But she wants to be able to embody that too. To incarnate, that Jung says that the whole history of life and nature is that one of a progressive incarnation, coming out into this world. But it's not easy. Jesus,
I guess why I have the level-headed man and the woman with practical shoes, which I wish I had. That's an indication in my dream. So.
Right. Okay, well, let me just mention one thing that this came up yesterday. I think we even talked about it. Most of the people who are attracted to Jung are intuitives, introverted intuitives, the ones most incapable of being embodied, the ones who don't have the tools. They need the sensate and the feeling function, and yet there are unconscious functions, and yet there are our door to a really satori, to personality number 2, Jeffrey Raff, who was very good friends with von Franz, said she says this: to be undivided, which is individuation means, is to be an active imagination all the time. And that means, like Jung, let me just tell you about something about Jung. He stopped throwing the I Ching because he knew what the Tao of this moment was. He did not need to throw the coins. He could tell you what hexagrams and what changing lines would show up before you threw the coins. Now, was that because his ego was so smart? No, it was because he had become so permeable. Now that's, I think, the whole idea of being undivided is we become permeable. The middle plane becomes, he says, the thing that separates me as someone who can guess the I Ching before it happens. He didn't say this. I'm putting words in his mouth. But the thing that separates me is I am transparent where others are opaque. I mean, the idea is, this is, I think, what undivided means, is we become more permeable to the visions and the voices of our inner law, which actually are conscious. That's, I don't know how I don't care how long you do this, you are always going to doubt the consciousness of the psyche. There's always going to be some doubt come into your mind. And I always have to go in. I say, I hate that guy. Get rid of him, coming in here and with his literalness and destroying the sacredness of this hour, well, anyway, Gary.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles. Yeah.
Yeah, you said you were curious if anyone had any comments on like where intuition comes from versus instinct.
Yeah.
I think intuition comes straight out of the ether. It doesn't really come from you. Instinct comes from the body. But intuition, it comes from nowhere and everywhere. It's from a place ineffable. That's what I'd say.
Well, it's in the fourth dimension. Jung said it was the only one that's in the fourth dimension. Intuition exists not in time and space. It exists in the fourth dimension. And he so sensate, feeling, and thinking all exist in time and space. Intuition doesn't. And this is very interesting. Is our awareness a product of biochemistry? Is it through nerve connections? Have you ever seen a nerve ganglia trying this all alone, and it's trying to search out other nerves in the brain? I mean, it's alive, and it's going out trying to find in an incredibly intuitive fashion, by the way, because it has no eyes, and I don't know what it does. Is it like a snake with a forked tongue that can tell chemicals? I don't know. But I would say what one of the things Jung said is, he says, I have outgrown my brain. I cannot flow back. In other words, his brain and his awareness were not the same anymore. They were the same, but not the same. That his awareness, I don't know. You can be skeptical and everything, but what in the hell are you doing here right now? I mean, how did you get here in the first place? Can you give me some kind of a sequence of events that caused this to occur? I don't know. Well, anyway, that's enough, Gary.
Probably go on to, so everyone gets a chance to speak. Kat, do you want to go next?
Angelique had her hand up just before. Oh, so you don't want to speak? Okay. No, there's just lots of things going on in my brain, and I think for me personally, and hearing these stories and things about dream, I mean, I think for me it will get to a point where I will say, or will not be saying, oh, it's just a dream. I think dreams are experiences just as much as what we experience in this world. You know, waking life, shall we say. I mean, I think that that's how I feel for me, because I can have a dream about having Zoom calls and being in the group and everything else. I've had dreams like that. And then I've had them like in, you know, having the waking experience. And to me, they're really no different in, you know, feeling and all the rest of it. So I don't know. That's how I feel. Yeah, I sometimes I have difficulty in what is waking and what is symbolic or what is literal. To me, it all feels pretty much the same, if I'm completely honest with you. But that's just me. Right, sorry for rambling. Sorry.
Oh, that's,
Young
you know, I
had
think that's
people ask
actually,
him about people he knew in the past, and he says, you know, I don't even remember that. It just, you know, I tried to do the best job I could do in the outer world, but everything that was real that happened to me was my dialogue with the depths, you know, and that is more real today than it was when it happened.
Quendra, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what mostly like struck me was the part where in the middle of the Germany, Britain, France, the dreams were not political at all. Like I did find that like really interesting. In some sense, I guess I would go and make a risk interpretation, but in some sense, politics appear the parody of the ego somehow, and not the ego on itself, but on the desync between ego and the unconscious parts. So the acts of politics show, like the parody shows like the uncomfortable part of the desync of the, like, I don't know, but the fact that dreams do not necessarily appear with their direct link with the politics, I guess it goes on to show how healthy it is for the human mind to take a third eye into itself and keep looking onto himself, you know, like also the when was Craig telling us about how he like told his friends that he circled around something to unveil its magic, it resonated with a part like of our like religious tradition. In Islam, the Kaaba, the holy place in Mecca, yeah, you are obligated to circle around it like 7 times. That is but you shouldn't do it more than 7 because it loses its meaning in some sense. The literary part, that is the institutionalization of the unconscious. Like you don't do it once and you don't do it a lot of times. So you keep a balance, and like that keeps you in touch enough to not lose in its waters. You know, I had a dream once, like I was circling around like this with a friend of mine, and we were jumping from place to place. And as soon as I realized that there is a deep darkness in the middle of it, and we're just circling around, I fell into it. So, yeah, that's about it. I mean,
Well, you can always bring your dream to our dream group on Mondays.
Yeah, yeah, it just reminded of that. I mean,
Well, you know that seven, if you go through the seven gates, or you go through the seven heavens, or when you come down into the earth when you're born, you know, the seven archons of each planet throw something at you, which you're binds them to you, you know, so that when you reach the earth, now every one of those planets has its claim on you, you know, and that's your astrology, you know. And, you know, that's what Hermes did when he came down the seven heavens. He debearded each one of the archons of the planets. So when he reached Earth, he was completely liberated, you know. But I think if you go through the seven gates of Inanna, you know, that's sort of my way of trying to get rid of this raging ego consciousness. You'll get lost after about 3 or 4 gates opening, and suddenly you fall in to something, you know. There's just something about the seven that is magical.
Tim, would you like to go next?
Sure. I've been really busy putting this confluence together.
Yeah.
So
Please tell us about it too. What's going on?
well, this is a gathering of people from around the world who are interested in just trying to respond to the crises that we face. You know, the pandemic was just one of a number of crises that made the whole world one. All of us sequestered in our own little rooms, you know, staring out the window, looking at an empty world. And everybody was in the same place everywhere. And we have all of these other crises, global climate change and the demise of democracy and the rise of authoritarianism that affects everybody around the world. And we think that the answers aren't going to come from the top, they're going to come from the people. You know, the only source of creativity other than God is in the human heart. And so we're trying to create a temenos where a bunch of creative people can get together and start talking about how human beings respond to a civilization that seems to be driving us all over the cliff. And Diana's going to be here.
Yeah.
So
when is it? And what is the deal with Yellowstone Park?
Well, it's in a couple of weeks from now. It's 3 days between June 10th and 13th. And afterwards, a bunch of people wanted to go to Yellowstone Park.
Oh.
So that's just kind of a side tour.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, I'm an artist and I'm not an administrator or a salesperson. And so I've been out of my element for several months trying to put this thing together. But it's coming together very well. And we're all getting very excited about it. Anybody that wants to participate can join it online. So I'll put in the chat here, the website.
And I'll send it in the email too. Tim's studio is just worth the price of admission. It is a wonderful studio. He's got this one room that he shows every once in a while. It has a great big, like a hayloft door that opens up, looks out on the mountains. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And one of the most beautiful places on earth, which is Helena, Montana, which is just actually south of Glacier National Park, which is a very strange park. You know, I mean, it has these mountains that are like pyramids, that are very thin pyramids. It's got several of them that look exactly the same, you know. But anyway, it's just, I can't wait, Tim, to hear more about it.
Yeah, and most of it, we're creating a documentary on it as well. And so it's going to be very well filmed. and most of it will be live streamed. So if you go to this website, confluence22.org, there's an option for joining in online as things are progressing. There's several items that I'm just really excited about. One of them is an exhibition of 6 artists from around the world that we're putting up in the gallery here in the building. And we're also producing a play. It's going to be the Western Hemisphere premiere of this particular play. That is the meeting between Carl Jung and this rabbi, Leo Beck, who accused Jung right after the Second World War of being a Nazi sympathizer. And so they're essentially enemies. And Jung sort of forced his way into this guy's apartment or his hotel room one time to confront him about this. And they had a 2-hour discussion, and they emerged lifelong friends. And we don't know what that story is. So the play, which is co-written by Murray Stein, is a kind of a historical fiction of what they think might have happened during that meeting. So we're doing that, and we're doing a big catered dinner for the whole community, for people that aren't involved in the Confluence but want to talk about some of the issues. And we're doing a public discussion about how faith and the institutional church responds to the times. So, and there's a couple of really cool tours that we're doing. One of them is about a bunch of dolmens, which have been recently discovered here. And a dolmen is like a rock table, you know. It's I'll see if I can throw up a picture for you. It's a couple of uprights and a plate on top. And there are a lot of these in the UK and in Europe. And all of a sudden, we've discovered a bunch of them here in Montana. And so they're about, I don't know, 30 miles from where I live. So we're going to take a little tour to these things. Let me see if I can.
They may have been formed by glaciers, but but they look absolutely like they were done like Newgrange or Stonehenge or
right,
and anything like that.
So here's a picture of one.
Yeah,
it's just my own drawing of one. But there's this little tiny area where there's about 14 of these things. And anyway, we're going to take a little tour bus down there and tromp through the woods and look at these things. So it's going to be a fascinating experience.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll see more about it as we go through. But Tim,
so I'm going to be out of here for the next couple of weeks, and I won't be back until middle of June.
Well, we'll be very vicariously, other than Diane, who's going to be literally there. Okay. Well, thank you, Tim.
Sure.
Yeah. Great. Angelique.
I wanted to say to Diane, for your question, the way I get it is instinct is rooted in one's nature and is being expressed through one's embodiment. I think that's the way it feels closer to me. And I think it's not only just your confusion. I think it's everybody's confusion because of what we usually tend to say, listen to your instinct. Whereas instinct is an urge that comes from deeper from your own natural embodiment. So your hunger, your thirst, as basic as that to begin with. and go higher in the scale. But they come up with the urge of an animal's kind of instinct. Whereas I think, like Charles, an intuition is really us reaching out to grasp insights that exist, say, as you said, Craig, in Sophia or in wisdom's places. So we penetrate through them, I feel, whereas our natural embodied being carries the instincts. I have Dionysus in my work on back in answer to that. But then, so instincts are what makes us, in my view, part of the natural world. Intuition is an ability to have insight on its laws, how it functions, what are the principles. I can't hear you, Diane.
Sorry. So do the senses and instinct influence intuition?
In ancient Greek literature, ancient Greek myths, all the seers and the prophets, most of them were blind. And Oedipus gets blinded. So sometimes the outer sense, it is indicated in quite a few of those myths that the outer senses sometimes can blind you towards insight and wisdom's treasures. And mysteries of Eleusis actually, as a number of mysteries in antiquity, were starting through the closing down of the senses, of the actual senses, in order to be able to experience the connection with the other realms. That Mircea Eliade reports it in his book on shamanism, but also these are standard yogic practices. There's a characteristic one, the closing of the five senses, where you are taught as an initiate to close down one by one your sight, your hearing, your everything, so then you can travel to the other world, if you like. So sometimes the senses can help you, but sometimes they can hinder you. But usually the prophets appear in ancient Greek myths as rewarded for this extra sensory wisdom by having to sacrifice one of their senses, usually the outer vision, in order to obtain the inner one. So, whereas the instincts have to do with urges, starting from sexuality, reaching to spirituality. They are Dionysian and they can be very demanding. So, you have to attend to them to be able to reach intuitive wisdom later on. Otherwise, the instincts can destroy you, as they can destroy an animal. In the back here, this plays quite a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Angelique, thank you.
Ava, would you like to go next?
No, I don't have something to add. Thank you for the lesson. I'm just listening today.
Okay, Dahlia?
Yeah, me too. I would like to hear more about the different functions, actually, and yeah, how do you recognize them? I don't know. The reading is not enough sometimes for me, but discussion is with examples. It's very, very useful and interesting. That's it.
Thank you. Charles?
No, I can't exactly say too much right now.
Well, can you tell us what you're doing and where you are?
No, I can't even say that.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, well, good deal. Okay, well, we'll start next time, and thank you for everybody and on what goes on. And Diane, when are you leaving?
Next Sunday. So
Next
I'll
Sunday.
I won't be here Sunday, but I probably will be Saturday for the
Okay,
dream
great.
session.
Thank you so much. Okay, and
Thank
we're
you.
looking forward to your dreams on Monday, Kat, if you can come. But if not, we can schedule a special time too, because she's getting a buildup of them. And Dahlia and Ava, we need a couple of your dreams too. And Ken Dream, you're always welcome. So, and Charles, I know I want to make sure you tell us about your dreams if you have any too, because they're going to be very important. Okay, well, go ahead, Ken.
Sorry. Would you mind adding me on the, I don't know, mailing list or something?
All right. Now, did you? Yes, I do have your email. I thought I had added you, but I will put you on there today, and I'll also send you this new text, which you know, we want to make sure we use because it has all the colored pictures in it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you everybody, and we'll see you next time. Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.